You sense that there's a void even when you're among others. You could be in a partnership with companions close by, with kin nearby, and still feel that quiet heaviness in your heart, that odd void as if you were living behind a pane, detached from the world and from your own self. This isn't frailty. This isn't ordinary clinginess. This is a profound signal, a stifled plea from your mind attempting to caution you. You are far from your own essence. Carl Jung termed this inner void a sort of quiet existential turmoil that afflicts the contemporary person. He noted that many of his clients didn't exhibit clear clinical signs but endured something more elusive and ruinous: the absence of significance, the breakdown of ties with the inner emblematic realm, and this inevitably echoes in your connections. Because when you detach from yourself, you begin to anticipate others to fill the gap you decline to recognize. That's why ties nowadays appear so delicate, so simple to sever, so brimming with unmet hopes. Individuals unite carrying needs they don't confess, casting onto others what they lack inside. And when the other doesn't satisfy that part, when they don't mend the injury, don't fill the cavity, don't meet the hidden hope, frustration, separation, and ache emerge. The bond crumbles. But what fell apart, there wasn't affection. It was the dream. And this cycle repeats. You leap from one bond to another or exist within one that seems barren, attempting to rekindle something that was never genuinely present. The issue isn't with the individuals who crossed your path. It resides in what you have yet to acknowledge within yourself. It is in the darkness you have not embraced, in the inner feminine you reject, in the hidden masculine you cast. It is, in your essence, forgotten and stifled by a life that only gazes outward. This video won't provide you with a simple solution, because there is no simple solution to such a profound inquiry, but it can guide you along the path Jung suggested, the route back within. Because as long as you persist in seeking externally for the remedy to evade what is internal, you will stay ensnared in the loop of discontent. What you sense is not trivial. It is your subconscious attempting to rouse you, and the moment has arrived to heed it. If you are prepared, accompany me. Let's plunge together into the most concealed strata of your mind, because solely there, in what you fail to perceive, lies the answer to what you feel. The most devastating, psychological anguish of today is not explosive. It does not attract notice. It does not shout. It murmurs day after day until the individual grows accustomed to the hollowness. You awaken, fulfill your duties, converse with others, labor, consume, media, engage in social gatherings. But all of this appears to be executed by someone on autopilot. It's as if something is perpetually missing, even when everything seemingly is in order. This torment lacks a label in conventional classifications of clinical psychology. It does not manifest with outbursts or visible breakdowns. It seeps in gradually, quietly, until life loses its zest and brilliance. Carl Jung observed this occurrence with unsettling clarity in the modern individual in pursuit of a spirit. He uncovered that many of his patients, although they did not exhibit any diagnosable mental ailment, bore within them a deep sense of void and futility. And the most alarming aspect, these individuals were often prosperous, efficient, functional in society's eyes. They had stable vocations, relationships, prestige, but sensed deep down that they were disconnected from something vital. What was absent was not affection. It was not wealth. It was not acknowledgement. It was essence. The essence in Jungian philosophy is not an abstract or spiritual notion. It is the symbolic aspect of existence. It is what bestows depth to living, enabling each encounter, no matter how simple, to be experienced in its totality. When this dimension is disregarded, life becomes a sequence of chores, duties, and performances. The individual conforms to the external world, but at the expense of severe internal impoverishment. And this sooner or later surfaces, sometimes as tedium, other times as persistent disheartenment, in certain instances as a widespread dissatisfaction that ruins everything that has been constructed. And it is precisely in this condition of existential numbness that relationships begin to falter. You anticipate the other to bring significance, for affection to reignite the spark of life, for companionship to alleviate the invisible load of existence. But the other cannot satisfy this role because they, too, very likely bear the same emptiness. And the encounter between two beings detached from their own essence inevitably generates frustration, discord, and desertion. Modern civilization, by prioritizing possession over existence, has severed the link between the individual and their inner realm. We commend performance, efficiency, appearance, but disregard the subtle summons of the essence, dreams, symbols, instincts, unnamed uneases, and the more we deny this aspect, the louder it shouts. And this cry emerges where we expose ourselves the most, in relationships. But this emotional collapse you experience is not the conclusion. It is the commencement, because it carries an invitation to gaze within, and for that we need to comprehend how relationships are, in fact, living reflections of our internal fragmentation. This is what we will delve into in the next segment. If this content resonates with you, click the subscribe button and join the channel. Thank you for your backing. Human connections, no matter how genuine and intense they may appear, often amount to mere psychic performances. When you enter a bond carrying aspects of yourself that you have yet to acknowledge, what you refuse to see in yourself ultimately gets cast onto the other. You believe you are falling for someone, but in truth, you are falling for an internal reflection that has never been assimilated. You think you are despising someone else's behavior when, in fact, you are encountering a shadow that has always been suppressed within you. This is not mere romanticism. It is profound psychology. Carl Jung cautions us that most relationships are constructed on unconscious projections. You do not perceive the other as they are, but as your psyche requires them to be. This other, then, becomes a vessel for everything that is disordered within you. Unacknowledged desires, unhealed wounds, unprocessed traumas, unresolved childhood needs. You demand, accuse, idealize, control not because you love, but because you are desperately attempting to obtain from the other something that you could only discover within yourself. That is why many relationships commence with enchantment and conclude in ruin. In the beginning, the projection is beautiful. The person seems flawless, complete, magical. They represent psychic salvation, the symbolic return to the lost paradise. But as time progresses and coexistence unveils reality, the projected image begins to disintegrate, and with that, disappointment emerges. Frustration, anger. You ponder, how has this person altered so much? But the truth is that they have not changed. You are the one who has begun to see beyond the projection. This mechanism operates in romantic relationships as well as in friendships, family bonds, and even in the workplace. We project authority onto bosses, idealize parents, demonize colleagues, seek approval from friends, all as a means to attempt to internally reorganize what has never been integrated. And the more we deny this process, the more enslaved we become to it. None of this is done out of malice. It is done out of ignorance about oneself. Human beings, when they are not conscious of the contents they carry in the unconscious, end up living governed by them. And one of the most potent archetypes that operate in this relational scenario is precisely the one Jung termed anima and animus, representations of the feminine in the masculine psyche and the masculine in the feminine psyche. It is these archetypal forces that, when unrecognized, distort our most intimate relationships. They make us love blindly, hate without reason, become emotionally dependent, or flee from involvement. And to understand how they silently shape our deepest connections, we need to confront their functioning head-on. That is what we will do in the next part. We will dive even deeper into the realms of anima and animus. Within every human being, there are psychic polarities that, when unrecognized, silently take control. Jung referred to these forces as anima and animus, two fundamental archetypes of the collective unconscious. They are not just symbolic concepts. They are living energies that shape our way of loving, desiring, fighting, and relating. When they are in balance, they serve as bridges between the ego and the unconscious. But when they are repressed or unknown, they turn relationships into emotional battlefields laden with idealizations, frustrations, and destructive repetitions. The anima is the archetypal image of the feminine in the man's psyche. It is not about the external woman, but about everything the man projects onto women. Emotions, sensitivity, intuition, mystery, beauty, danger. When the anima is not integrated, it acts autonomously, causing the man to seek in external women an idealized figure that corresponds to his unconscious fantasy. He falls in love with shadows, with symbols, with pieces of himself that he has refused to integrate. And when the real woman fails to match this internal image, which always happens because no woman can carry the soul of another man, resentment, distance, and contempt arise. The same woman who was once adored as a muse becomes hated as a threat. The animus, on the other hand, represents the archetype of the masculine in the woman's psyche. This figure manifests as critical thinking, formed opinion, authority, action. When the animus is unconscious, it dominates the woman from within, causing her to see external men as enemies, dominators, or saviors who must solve her life. This generates relationships based on submission, aggression, or emotional dependence. In this case, the woman does not engage with the real man in front of her, but with an inner masculine figure that distorts her perceptions and fuels conflicts. These forces are neither good nor bad. They are necessary. But when they operate without awareness, they completely distort the way we perceive the other. The anima makes the man seek completeness in the external feminine when, in fact, he should seek it within. The animus makes the woman struggle with external masculine figures when the true battle is internal. The result is always the same: broken relationships, repetition of patterns, an endless cycle of seeking and frustration. Integrating the anima and animus is therefore a crucial step in the process of individuation. This means recognizing these internal images, dialoguing with them, giving them form and awareness. A man who integrates his anima becomes more empathetic, creative, and emotionally profound. A woman who integrates her animus develops confidence, assertiveness, and rational clarity without needing to fight with the world. But this integration requires courage. It requires coming into contact with the contents that have been denied throughout life. It requires renouncing the childish idea that the other will come to complete you because the other is not your salvation. They can only be your companion on the journey if you have already begun to walk alone. And as long as these internal forces remain unconscious, you will continue to seek outside what is missing inside. You will continue to feed the illusion that love heals the wound of the soul. But what Jung shows us is the opposite. First, you heal the soul. Then, you learn to love. And to understand why this illusion of external completeness is so powerful and so dangerous, we need to face it, head on. That is what we will do in the next part. From an early age, we are taught subtly or explicitly that somewhere in the world there is someone who will complete us. This idea, deeply rooted in Western culture, is repeated ad nauseum in movies, songs, novels, and even superficial therapeutic speeches. Romantic love has been elevated to the status of psychic salvation, no matter how fragmented, needy, or empty. You may feel, they say, that when you find the right person, everything will fall into place. This myth is dangerous. It feeds a childish fantasy that healing lies outside of us, that the other will come as a redeeming hero or heroine willing to rescue us from ourselves. Carl Jung unmasked this illusion with brutal honesty. For him, seeking completeness in another is a sophisticated form of evasion from one's own psyche. Love, when born from need, transforms into possession, control, and suffering. What we call passion is often just a violent projection of the unintegrated anima or animus. You are not loving the person in front of you. You are loving an internal image that your psyche has projected onto them. This explains why you often get involved with people who rationally make no sense, or why you are brutally disappointed when the other inevitably does not match the fantasy. This illusion of external completeness is a psychic trap. It keeps you in an endless cycle of searching and frustration. When a relationship fails, the mind seeks another object of desire, believing that the problem was the wrong person. And so you go on, jumping from relationship to relationship, accumulating pain, resentment, and a growing sense that true love may not even exist. But love has not failed you. You have confused it with healing. Jung said that every projection is an opportunity for growth. When you are disappointed with the other, it is your psyche returning what you tried to cast out. It is the unconscious saying, "Look within." The emptiness you feel will not be filled by anyone, neither by the ideal partner nor by the perfect lover, nor by momentary connections masked as depth. No human being has the obligation nor the capacity to heal your internal split. True completeness is a state of consciousness. It arises from the integration of opposites within oneself: reason and emotion, strength and vulnerability, light and shadow, anima and animus. When this happens, the other ceases to be a remedy and becomes a mirror, someone with whom you share the journey, not someone who walks for you. But this journey is not linear. It requires facing oneself. It demands crossing the desert of one's own soul without guarantees, without external promises. And the name of this path in Jungian psychology is individuation, the process by which you stop seeking in the other what you can only find within yourself. It is the transition from love-need to love consciousness. In the next part, we will dive deep into this symbolic journey that Jung called individuation, the path that leads from fragmentation to wholeness, a profound, painful, and at the same time liberating process. The only real route to transform your relationships and, above all, your own existence. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's core ideas and gives you tools to understand yourself more deeply. The link is in the pinned comment. You have spent your entire life trying to fit in, trying to be good enough for others, trying to meet family expectations, trying to find a safe place within unstable relationships. And in the midst of all this, you lost touch with the one thing that could truly sustain you, your soul. Jung shows us that as long as we remain focused only outward, seeking recognition, love, security, and validation, we will live disconnected from the totality of our being. True transformation begins when you turn your gaze inward, when you stop running away from yourself and start the process of individuation. Individuation is not self-help. It is not a quick fix. It is not about becoming your best version in the eyes of the world. It is a symbolic, deep, and painful journey towards reconciliation with everything you have repressed, denied, or feared within yourself. It is the path back to wholeness, a return not to what you want to be, but to what you are in all your complexity. During individuation, you are called to integrate the fragmented aspects of the psyche, the ego with the unconscious, the persona with the shadow, the inner masculine with the inner feminine. Each step in this process requires confronting uncomfortable truths, your contradictions, your rejected impulses, your repressed emotions, your unprocessed traumas. It is in this dive that you find what truly moves you and also what silently sabotages you. It is in this journey that the anima and animus lose the power to project fantasies onto others and begin to function as internal guides. The shadow, once feared, becomes a source of power, and the ego, once inflated or